Hello, welcome to AFU United WFC.
Good evening and welcome to AFU United WFC with me, Matt Crane. We are live and we are on the AFU WFC show. Two great guests today. I've got Gareth who joins me as always. Gareth, how are you? Good, great start. In that case, James, I'll go straight to you. How are you doing?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. So yeah, obviously this evening then we're going to be discussing the National League and the importance of growing the game. We will talk about FC United as well because that's our local team. And James, I'll sort of let you, introduce yourself and just explain to viewers, obviously, what you do at FC United and things like that.
Yeah, I'm the assistant manager at FC United ladies team. I've been there now for a couple of seasons. It's been a bit of a crazy time throughout COVID and kind of training and getting ourselves promoted up into National League. So it's been a busy couple of seasons, to be fair, but I've enjoyed it. It's been mint.
Yeah, and obviously for those that tuned into our podcast with Kirsty Chambers and Jordan Bailey, obviously they spoke very highly of yourself and Tom and sort of talked about the struggles of COVID, which we'll get into later on. And yeah, just kind of discuss football, but I'll let you make a start, Gareth, and then we'll go from there. Still froze. Gareth, can you hear us now? You're frozen.
Yeah, can now. Okay.
Yeah, I was just saying, do you want to start off? You were we're going to go into obviously talking about the results Sunday and sort of things like that.
Yeah, so on Sunday, big result, 12-1 win in the qualifying round for the FA Cup, into the first round proper. At the time of recording, unless you've had information in the last 8 minutes or so, we don't know who you've got in the next round. But what are your thoughts on the game on Sunday?
Yeah, so we've just had news anyway. We've got Brighouse Town at home in the next round, which is should be a good tie. I'm looking forward to that one. A little bit of history there, but yeah, the game on Sunday was brilliant. I think we've needed a little bit of a reaction from the kind of performances of late. We've had a few kind of ups and downs. The season's been a bit all over the show. We've been either beating teams 6-0 or getting beat 6-0. It's been a bit kind of one way or another. We're still trying to find that medium ground, but it was a good opportunity for us to dust ourselves off a little bit and just be creative and have a little bit of flair about us. And some of the individual performances where you mentioned about Kirsty Chambers a minute ago, like it looks like leagues and leagues above some of the players are playing against. Like Kirsty was untouchable, and then I think my man of the match was Corey Mather, was just at right back, was just sublime. Like he scored 2 goals from just screamers, both of them absolute screamers. Like no business to it, any of them, but that scored them. I think she could have had about 5 or 6 assists. Like every ball that came into the box was dangerous. So brilliant performance. I was happy with it, and we've been working, and I think I've been personally working a lot on the set pieces. And for us to score 2 set pieces was brilliant. But for us to concede one, that annoyed me more than anything. I think I'll definitely be going into training like Tuesday, Thursday, and really working on some of these set pieces again, because I think it's a big part of our game we need to improve.
Yeah, I was going to actually say, were you to blame for conceding, but...
Oh, mate, you should have seen me. I was so frustrated. I was like, literally, I think it was like 8-1 or something. I was so frustrated at that. But we've been putting a lot of energy in the training ground, working on set pieces and attacking them and being aggressive and making sure we're making these the big opportunities, especially at National League level. If you've got 7 or 8 opportunities to fire the ball down the keeper's throat in a game, it's a real test of let's see what they're about. Let's see what they're made of. I think we did that. We created some scrambles. We created some moments in the game, and it resulted in getting 2 goals. And I think if we can take that from the FA Cup into the National League, we will start adding more goals from set pieces, which is going to be massive in some of these tighter games.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's fine margins, isn't it? Especially in some games, like you say, if you can take that into the league and sort of find that edge from a set play, whether it's a free kick or a corner, like you say, it can only benefit you. But one thing I like, you mentioned fullbacks as well. I want to shout out Anya as well.
Oh, mate.
She got herself a goal, but you could see on both sides, like, you mentioned about working on it. It was something you could clearly tell because both fullbacks were just bombing on. And I think Anya could have had, more than the goal that she got.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It must be pleasing for obviously yourself and Tom having worked on that to see something like that come off.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's brilliant to see because Anya does it a lot like you see Cancelo do for Man City, where she inverts herself. And it adds so much to our game. Like you see her making inverted runs into the box, and I'm thinking, as a fullback, you've got no business being there, but you're just causing all kinds of nightmares, and teams don't know what to do. And I think because Anya is such an intelligent player, like she's one of these players who went over to the States and trained in America, and you can just tell with the coaching, like when you're communicating with some players, and there's some players where you've got to kind of go over things 4 or 5 times with, and there's some players when you can speak really on a technical level. And you just get it. It clicks straight away. And Anya's one of them. Like you tell Anya, you can give her 5 or 6 different kind of key instructions that she needs to do, and it's a one-time thing. She takes it on board, and she just implements it into a game. And I'm glad that you've noticed the kind of work we've been doing with the fullbacks there. Like you saw it in that game. They were both just so aggressive going forward. Like it's hard when you've got 2 players who are both fast, they're both quick. And they're both just attacking. It just gives us. We're basically just doubling up our wingers. That's where we're at that point. It was brilliant to see it come to fruition on the game on Sunday.
And so, just to jump in there, how do you think getting that big result is going to impact your season going forward? So going into that game, a bit of rocky form. We spoke to Tom and he said that kind of confidence had taken a knock with some of the results that you'd got. How is going out and getting like a really decisive win like that going to affect confidence sort of moving forward and into the Chorley game next week?
Yeah, for me, like there's not. Let's not be unrealistic about it. The team we're playing, that they're a lower league team. Like it's supposed to happen. We're supposed to pump teams like that, and it's no disrespect against them. They were a good outfit. They were professional in what they did. They came about their business, but with the quality that we've got, we should just be putting goals past those teams. But it's just a good reminder for some of the players in the team. We got kind of 6 or 7 different goal scorers yesterday. It's a good confidence boost for those players to get on the score sheet. People getting good assists and getting good individual performances. That's the main positive from it. But I think for me, going into the rest of the season, we've just got to close the gap now between when we're getting beat. We're not getting beat in a 2-1 game where it's tight. We're letting our heads drop a little bit where we go 1-0 down, 2-0 down, and it's all the wheels fall off. And that's what kind of me and Tom. It's more looking at like kind of mentality thing. Like how do we improve the players' mentality so that if we do go 2 down, we can turn this game around and we can. I went to watch Chorley versus Stockport a few weeks back, and Stockport counted with 3-0 at half time, and the game ended 3-3. And if that's not a kind of testament to if you keep your mind in the right place, you can get results out of these games. And that's where I think we need to make a big improvement. We've lost 4 games, and if we would have got, I think we should have won the Chesterley Street game. There's 3 points, and I think if we could have picked up a draw in one of the other 3 defeats, there's an extra 4 points, and we're sat 2nd or 3rd in the league. It's the fine margins there that we're talking about. They're the little things that we need to work on. But like you say, me and Tom have not had a long time to work with these players. Like it's still early days. Like some of these teams have been established in the national division for the last 4 or 5 years. We've just come up. Me and Tom have been working together for a matter of months, and we're still making waves. And I think we're still performing now better than kind of we should be as a team that's been newly promoted into the league.
Yeah, it's interesting actually because listening to that, and we'll sort of get onto how close the National League is, not just obviously in in the 4th tier, but obviously in the 3rd tier as well. But is it important then? Because I think about when you said about those sort of lower sides that are further down the leagues, is it important to sort of not underestimate them? Because obviously sometimes it could be easy to look at it like you say from the outside and go, oh well, these are sort of 5th, 6th, 7th tier, and then possibly that affect sort of players maybe, because you see it sometimes, don't you? Especially in the cup, in the men's side as well, you see teams underestimate teams lower down. But obviously I think what what we saw Sunday was a really, like you said, professional. Use the word professional. I'd say from yourselves as well. Really professional performance. But how do you sort of feel about that then?
Yeah, the main approach for us on Sunday was the first 20 minutes are crucial for both teams. So I know you say that in every game it's crucial, but more so in these cup ties when you're playing against teams that are lower down in the divisions. If they're still in it after 20 minutes and they're competing and they're battling their 1v1s and it's 0-0, they start finding extra gears that they didn't even know they had. They start rising to the occasion. So for us, it was, let's go out and absolutely punish them within the first 20 minutes. It needs to be all guns blazing and be respectful. That's the most respectful we can be to these teams, is to go out and treat them like a team at our level and go out and give them 1,000,000%. I think we scored kind of 2 goals within a couple of minutes, and that was exactly the response we wanted straight away. Me and Tom said it'll either go one or two ways. They'll have a bit of fight about them and they'll stick in it. And they might turn it into a bit of one of them. You've seen it up and down the FA Cup results where you can see teams have gone to penalties and they've had proper scrappy results. We didn't want that. We wanted it to be, let's go out, let's go all guns blazing, let's punish them early on, and let's get this tie boxed off in the first 20 minutes. And to be fair to the players, they went out and did that and they executed it. And like you say, professional. They went out there and treated their opponents with respect. But ultimately, we needed a job and we needed to get it done.
And obviously, so the tie against Brighouse is a side in the 3rd tier. The National League as a whole, I think this is the first season really that me, I'm not sure about you, Matt, that has followed sort of tiers 3 and 4 a lot more closely than previously, and it's really competitive and kind of a lot more competitive than I first kind of thought it would be. How is it for you guys to kind of be managing and coaching within such a competitive league where, at one point you had opportunities to kind of go joint top and every week the league is shifting around. I think in the Division 1 North there was there's about 4 or 5 teams that have sat top. How is that for you, just seeing like the strength and quality of these divisions kind of getting better and better year on year?
Yeah, I think for me and especially for Tom as well, it is a really competitive league. Like 1 minute we're having a chat before a game, say if we win today we go joint top, and at the end of the next week it might be, oh mate, if we don't get a result today we're going to be 7th, and it's a big disparity between the top. But the one thing we learned straight away out about the league when we came into it was any team can take points off anyone. Like you can't look at any game and look past the team. Like if a team like Alnwick Town are on 1 point at the bottom of the league, but I would never look at Alnwick Town and go, they can't take points off someone, because they can. Like they literally can. They're not a bad outfit. Like, and that was the biggest learning thing for me, is at this level. I think if you're missing one player from a team, it can be the difference. Like it's that the margins are so tight. Like if you've seen some of the results there where I think Barnsley beat Leeds, and then Leeds came and they pumped us like 5-6-0, and then you're like, we beat Barnsley the week before. Like, what's happened there? Like you can't. It doesn't. The kind of football maths doesn't add up. It's literally you just got to turn up and game plan for each game and do your best. And I think we've learned a lot. The first couple of games of the season was a big eye opener for us. I think Kirsty and Jordan talked about it. It was we were just way off the pace. Like we didn't have enough time to prepare. Like we didn't have enough people fit. We've been injury ridden and we've been throughout the team, and we weren't ready. We literally weren't ready. I'll be the first person to hold my hands up and say, like, I was a little bit shell shocked the first game when we played Newcastle. I was like, geez, like this is a different pace. Like the pace, we weren't up to the pace. So we went back to training and we upped the intensity, and then we started to grind out a few more results. And I think come the end of the season, for me especially, if we can establish ourselves as kind of a top 3, top 4 team in this division in our first season in it, that's a success for me. That's a brilliant performance. Like, and then if we can go on into our second season and look to make a title challenge, mate, that I'll take that. That's I think a realistic objective for us to start pushing for.
It's interesting you say that, actually, because that was more or less a carbon copy of my words to Tom. Trying to think, a few weeks ago it would have been, I can't think what the last league game was now, but I said the same. He was talking about sort of being disappointed that you weren't closer to the top, and I said, but Tom, you've got to look at it this way, that you've just come up, you're fighting the top teams already. You know, you're up there, top 4, and you know exactly the same as you. I said, if you can sort of finish that season, you know, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, for me, you know, from the outside anyway, I'd call that successful. You know, and see what you can do in the cups. Obviously, you know, since then 1 or 2 haven't quite gone that way, but obviously Sunday you got your FA Cup win, and you're at home against Brighouse. Like you said, you know, teams can take points, or obviously in cup it's not points, but you know what I mean, get goals, and anything could happen. And I think, you know, that's a credit to both of you. Obviously, like you said, you know, since that Newcastle game, because Kirsty and Jordan, like you said, did mention it, and they sort of said after that it was more learning, and they learnt more from that, despite it being a heavy defeat, than, you know, say any wins and things like that. And I think that's what's great about it, is that, you know, you use the losses to motivate you and to learn. And then, like you said, you know, you find your feet, and eventually, you know, you're up there now, when it isn't always the case. You know, you've seen other teams that have come up and sometimes struggle.
Yeah, I think for last season as well, like before we came up, we were getting away with results just based on our quality. We were winning games, not because we tactically set up great, or because we played brilliant football. We got away with it because we had people like Kirsty Chambers and Jordan Bailey, and these players who were just bagging goals out of nowhere. Like because they're just those top quality players. They were playing way below their level, and it was when I first got involved, and I was a little bit frustrated. I was thinking, we're not really doing the best. We're not getting the best out of these players. But it's only since we've been met by this adversity and these like playing teams like Newcastle and Leeds United, like these are top quality teams. Like, and that's when you start to learn and go, we need to sharpen our craft a little bit. Like, we got away with these things at a lower level, where you don't get away with this at this level. Like, you really don't. Like, these teams will punish you if you give them 3-4 chances. They're going to score 3 or 4 goals. Like, that's how it's going to go down. And I think that was the biggest eye opener for us. That, all right, we're not going to get through just on quality. Like, we really need to be working hard in training. And I think adding the extra training session that we have has made a massive difference. Like, it really has. Like, we can actually sit, and when we used to be limited to 2 hours a week, we literally used to sit down and we kind of like, you'd be kind of cutting things out. Like, we might not be able to work on set pieces this week, or we might not be able to do this because we didn't have enough time. Whereas now it's been very much, we've got a 4-hour window each week. We've got kind of recovery sessions as well, what we can work on, and we can really game plan for these matches that are coming up.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, like you say, you know, that only adds to, you know, the quality of yourselves. But I'm just thinking in terms of like looking at other leagues, you know, the 3rd tier North and South is so tight, and I think, you know, it's great that you've got that. You know, you can put in the 4 hours plus the analysis and the recovery, and I think in terms of looking at the game as a whole, you know, that's only going to benefit, you know, everybody. And I think one sort of annoyance that I've constantly repeated myself on is, you know, one team getting promotion. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you feel on this. Probably
no, I think it's crap. Like, I really do. Like, if I'm going to put it out there, if anyone's listening from the leagues, like, sort it out. Like, please sort it out, because it makes it fun. Like, if 2 or 3 teams go up and 2 or 3 teams go down, it adds a bit of spice to the leagues. Like, that's what you want to see. Like, I think it's 3 that go down out of our league this year, because I think Bolton dropped out. But that's it. When you look at that, it's a bit of a like, oh God, mind the gap there. Like, you make sure you're not anywhere near the bottom, like, because it makes it a bit more spicy. But if you've got kind of 2 or 3 spots at the top, or even a playoffs, mate, how good would a playoff be? Like, the top 3 teams, the first one goes up, top 2 have a playoff. That'd be class, man. Like, I think the FA and whoever, the National League or whoever's organising it, they're missing a trick a little bit there, because that's what would get people and fans engaged with the sport. Like, we're trying to grow the women's game. Imagine like 4 or 5 playoffs for people to go up the leagues. They'd be firefight games then. Like, do you know what I mean? Imagine us and call it whoever you want, Leeds or someone have got a playoff game to get promoted. That's a big game, man. You get big fans to those games. I think they need to definitely have a little bit of a rethink, because one's just, do you know what I mean? It's not exciting, is it? Like,
especially
go on, Gareth.
Especially like in the 3rd tier, where, you know, Fylde or Wolves or whoever could win their division, and then they have to go and have a playoff against the winner of the South, and then you know, you can win the league and not go up. It's just absolute madness.
Mate, it makes no sense to me. Like, that makes no sense. Like, how can you become the league champions and not get promoted? Like, there's definitely needs to. I think, I don't know, I don't want to slag the leagues off or anything, but it's
No.
like borderline laziness for me. Like it's like let's rethink this, let's rejig it, and let's make it exciting. Like we've got an opportunity here where people are engaging with the women's game so much more, and we're kind of missing a trick a little bit. Like I believe.
No, I think you're spot on. I think back, and I know, Gareth, you mentioned about this sort of being your first season sort of at this level. But for me, I used to watch Blackburn Rovers when they were sort of third and fourth tier.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same. It got to the point where I think it was 3 years on the bounce. They won the league, but they lost the playoff against the Southern team. And it was like, I said exactly the same because I was new to it. This was back in like 2014-15. I said, how on earth can you have a team that wins the league? I think one year they won the treble as well. They cleaned up on like the plates and the challenge cups and things. And I was like, how can you be denied promotion? And it's exactly the same. Now, like you say, if you want to grow it and get people in, and like you say, you could have a playoff final against Leeds United, to get promotion to the third tier. What better advert for football than, to get people in? And it's interesting because looking at attendances, I was looking at some of the third tier attendances for Sunday. And to be fair, they're quite comparable as well, to what you're doing at FC. I mean, I think Fylde only got about 100, and you think, Sunday, I think,
and they're
100.
bossing it, aren't they?
Yeah. But yeah, this is it. They're near the top of the third tier. I think the second to Wolves at the minute, who are just smashing it. But looking at it as a whole, you think out of Wolves, Fylde, possibly Derby, Huddersfield, there's 4, maybe even Forest as well. And then you look at the southern tier, and there's like Ipswich, Southampton, Portsmouth, Crawley as well. It's almost sad in a way to think that, players and staff and everybody's putting in all that time and effort for sort of one team to go up. So I think for me personally, in terms of growing,
I don't like it. Yeah, I've been a big, since I got involved in the women's game, I don't like it. I think it almost gives too much protection to the clubs that are already at a higher level, where like there's less risk. There's less risk involved, and I think that's not in the competitive nature of sport. Like if there's teams who are really digging in and they're really working hard, and they're getting investment and getting building facilities around the women's side of the game, for them to, what you talked about there, for Blackburn to win the treble and not get promotion, it's scandalous, isn't it? Like it really is. And I think if you came second bottom of the tier above and you didn't go down, like, oh yeah, do you deserve to be there more than Blackburn deserve to be there? No, you don't. Like, let's be honest about it. Like, or at least let's even spice it up a little bit more. Make them play each other. like at least give them something. You need to like kind of throw a dog a bone a little bit and let's make it competitive. Like, why not have these kind of like shootouts with each other and see if we can like move the pyramid around? Because for clubs like ours, especially at FC, we're going to need something like if we're pushing and fighting, we're going to need some kind of. It might have a bit of luck that goes your way sometimes, but I think it's going to have to open up a little bit to give teams like ourselves a bit more of a fair shot.
It would be nice though as well, because sort of thinking about that, I had like a rugby style format in my mind where it'd be like the bottom 3 of the league above would play the top 3 of the league below, and maybe like you say, even some sort of playoff like that could potentially. It just makes it interesting, doesn't it? And then you say like bottom 3.
They have that in the Bundesliga in Germany. So like the bottom 2 get relegated straight away, and the top 2 from this second division go up. Obviously, this is in the men's game, but yes, the bottom 2 and the top 2 go up, and then third, bottom, and third will play each other in a relegation playoff. Yeah, and so that again just adds that bit of spice to it. So you can come third in your league and have a chance, but you've got to beat somebody from the tier above, and obviously momentum is going to play a part in that. And they're really interesting games. And you just think, Forest got, when they played their game at the City Ground, got about 4,500 people there in the third tier, and that's just madness. And for the game to kind of growing like it is, to have just sort of such dated relegation and promotion systems just seems a bit, I just can't get.
It's archaic, isn't it? It's old. It's old and archaic. And I think, imagine us now, say we finished third, and there was a system like that, and we finished third in our first season, and we got to play a playoff, like a relegation game with whoever came third bottom of the league above. Mate, that's a big game. That's a big game for us to potentially get like a back-to-back promotion. And I think momentum, like you talked about, is a big thing. Then it's a big thing. But at the same time, if the team above, they win their game and they manage to stay in, what a great day for them. They managed to stay up and survive, and it's just a great advert for football and the competitive nature of the sport. And I think it definitely needs a review. And I hope if like I said, if anyone watches this, sort yourselves out.
We'll make a few tweets, I think, and see if we can find the right people.
yeah, I'll slide into a few people's DMs.
Just say, listen, we're award-winning now. Is there any chance you can just take on board what we've said?
yeah, 100%.
People
mate,
think
100%.
we're all right,
Big time now.
Gareth, do you want to talk about then, obviously, the COVID situation for, the last 18 months?
Yes, obviously this season has been kind of relatively unaffected by COVID since Tom has come in with the pre-season and so on. But going back for like the last season and a half beforehand, I think it was March 2020 where everything suddenly kind of got curtailed. How was it for the club to kind of go through that uncertainty of, you were allowed to play games and then they were called off again and the season was called off and not having any kind of idea what league you were going to be in? Like, how did you prep over sort of the spring and early summer this year where you weren't really sure which league you were going to be in this year? Like, what challenge did that face for you and for the team as well?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It was well frustrating. Like we were in a position where we were unbeaten. I think when Cam was still at the team before Tom came in and I was involved in the staff there, we were unbeaten. Like we'd smashed everyone, and then they were like, "Yeah, we're finishing the league now, and we'll just let you know how it goes." And we were just kind of like, "What? Like, how do you keep?" Especially more for us, like there was teams that weren't doing great in the league who didn't seem that bothered because it's a fresh start for us now. Whereas we'd gone like 8 or 9 games unbeaten. Like I didn't even think we had goals conceded against us for large parts of it. Like we'd absolutely gone on a run, and fair play to Cam, the old manager. Like he did really well throughout that period. But then kind of when the season was finished and then we kind of started again, and then it was curtailed again, and it was kind of like, what is going on here? Like it felt a little bit kind of like, is this even going to get going again? Like what's going? And I think that's not just in football. It felt like that in the country and everything, didn't it? Like no one really knew what they were going on, and it wasn't just something that was isolated to what we were dealing with. People, their jobs had stood still, and it was a worrying time for everyone. So you didn't want to kind of moan too much because football weren't kind of kicking off, but training was difficult. Like how do you keep people motivated to be training 100% and putting maximum effort in to keep fit and keep drilled when you didn't even know when the season was going to start again? Like you didn't even know. And then if it did start, what league were we even going to be in? I think we've got quite kind of fortunate with that. We did get the kind of upward movement, and I think that's kind of testament to everyone at the club who put tons of effort in. And I think Paul as well, the operations director at FC, he put a ton of effort into it. And Cam as well, like I mentioned, the old manager, he put a ton of effort into making sure the application was successful. But it was a difficult time. Like it was hard to, are you even going to keep all the players at that point? Like if people, you've got lives, haven't they? Especially in the women's game, people want to have children and all this kind of stuff. And you can't just put your life on hold for 2 or 3 years while kind of COVID passes us by and the league figure out what they're going to do. And the government kind of have their input as well. But it was really difficult. Like, and it was a difficult time for myself as well. I think that's when Cam took a bit of a step back, and the team didn't have a manager for a little while, for a few months, and I kind of stepped in and was just kind of trying to be the glue to kind of keep things together a little bit. And it was a good learning kind of phase for myself as well throughout that period.
Yeah, well, we'll sort of get onto that bit because I know you received quite a lot of praise, and that's something I want to sort of go into in a bit more sort of detail. But you were talking about obviously plays and things like that. Then I'm assuming, obviously not knowing the league as well and the restart, not only would it affect recruitment, but potentially budgets as well. If you're thinking, are we going up, are we not? It's difficult, isn't it, then to maybe say, well, actually, next season we're struggling to plan because we don't know if we're going to be in 5th tier or 4th tier. But sort of, I'm assuming that was the case, and that also becomes difficult just to add to more sort of complications. Yeah,
because at that time period as well is I didn't know what was going to be going on. We kind of had a brief idea of that we're going to get a new manager, and I'll kind of be a caretaker in the meantime. But it was still responsibility of I need to try and get some players in. Like I can't just, whether I stay on or whether I'm involved in the club still, I need to make sure when I kind of pass this over, it's going to be in safe hands and there's going to be a good group of players. And to try and recruit when you don't know what league you're going to be in is, I promise you, it's difficult. Like especially at that level, what we're at going into the National League is people want to play National League football, and if you're not in the National League, they're not going to come. Like, so we're kind of like, yeah, it's been good. Like, our application looks like it's going to go through, and it's not what players want to hear when you're speaking to them. And luckily enough, though, we managed to get Abby Hunt down from Stoke. She came down, I think, through in the third tier Stoke. So that was a positive thing for us. Like, we were still managing to kind of like talk my way into getting players through the door. Like, I don't know how it was happening and stuff like that, but it was still, we're putting a bit of graft in, trying to sell it to people a little bit, like showing them around the stadium, like, look at all this shiny stuff here. Like, we're trying our hardest, but it was a difficult time. Like, and I was glad to be when we got the news about the kind of we're getting upward movement. It did kind of just clarify everything for us. It was like, yes, we can actually start pushing forward now. Because I would have rather had the bad news. I just wanted some like crystal clear news so we could start planning. Do you know what I mean? It was in limbo for a good few months.
Yeah, I think on that though, that takes us sort of into the next sort of discussion point then, because obviously we were talking with Kirsty and Jordan about sort of pre-Tom, and obviously, you know, you both came in for some praise from them, and you know, other members of the squad as well that were watching. But the thing that really stuck out for me was they were sort of saying, you know, before Tom came in, you know, you were the one, like you said before, sort of holding it together, and was sort of the link, you know, to keep things going. And a couple of girls sort of mentioned, you know, they may not have carried on had it not been for you. Do you just talk to me a little bit about that then, in terms of, like I say, sort of keeping things ticking over?
Yeah, I think for me was obviously my missus involved with the team as well. So my missus is one of the players who's been at the team for like 9 or 10 years. Like one of kind of she's off on maternity at the minute, but it was, I've been a fan of the club and the team for years. So it wasn't just like kind of a job type of situation for me where I wanted to kind of step in and help out. It was more like there was more of an emotional connection. It was, I want to make sure like this doesn't fall apart. Like I've got family members who've put kind of a decade of their life into building this team. It means more than just like if I just stand by the wayside and let this kind of fall apart, it would have been like scandalous. And I think I come from a business background. I've kind of managed businesses and my own businesses for like the last kind of 10 years. And it only seemed right that some of those skills were transferable. And it was, if I can step in now and help organize this a little bit, and kind of hold it together and give the girls a little bit of a bit of hope and a bit of direction of, do you know what, there's when we get this National League promotion, there's going to be tons of good managers who can come and get involved with this team. And that's kind of when the application started coming in. Originally, I was going to go for the job myself. Like that was one of the ideas, as the team was saying, like, we like the idea of it, but I wasn't naive to the experience level. I had not had like the same experience people like Tom had. And I was open. I said that I'm happy to be the face of this on behalf of the coaching staff and put my name forward and go through the application process. But if someone comes in who I think's better than me for the job, I'll be the first person to say. And I think when Tom's application came in, I reached out to him. I said, "Let's have a chat. Let's have a chat and see." I wanted to kind of vet Tom as well myself. I wanted to say, like, do I think he's a good fit? Like, I know he won't mind me saying this because we're really close now. Like, but I wanted to have a chat with him. We went and had a chat at like hotel football and stuff, and I was like, "Yeah, man, this seems like this is the right thing." And it was kind of then I went and presented it to the team and said, "Yeah, this is the kind of the direction we're going, and it looks like the future's looking a bit bright now." And I think just those kind of key milestones throughout that period, it gave people a little bit more belief in actually this is going somewhere, because it did honestly for a couple of months it felt like this could go on its arse. Like it could really fall apart. There's players going and trialing at different clubs and all this kind of stuff, and it would really kind of like, let's throw a net around this and bring everyone tight and bring everyone close. And thankfully, like it kind of, I think some of it by luck and some of it by effort, it managed to kind of come together in the end, which is really positive.
Gareth, are you back?
Yeah, it should be. Jeez, honestly, this Wi-Fi is atrocious.
It's killing you, isn't it?
So obviously, kind of during pre-season, we started coming along to pre-season games because we just wanted to come and watch football, and obviously started using this podcast as a platform for promoting the club as well whilst we were there. how important is it for anybody really, kind of fans, local media? Obviously, FC, you've got the FC United radio as well. But how important is that exposure, kind of from anywhere really, for teams in the sort of 4th division and around there?
Yeah, mate, I think it's super important. Like any voice and any platform that we can get right now to talk about the women's game is massive. For me, I'm pushing kind of equality of rights for men and women. Like, I've got another daughter, and I'm going to have 3 daughters, so it seems fitting that I'd be involved in the women's game and kind of like championing the kind of the women's side of things. Like, and I think kind of the more, especially what Sky have done now recently with WSL, it's brilliant. Like, to actually see the kind of like the exposure that even from this level all the way up to Sky, that the women's game is getting, it makes a massive difference. And I think it's going to take people like yourselves, people like Nat as well, and to just keep that energy going, and keep doing this kind of tireless work, putting in these hours, putting in the graft, because it does make a massive difference. Like, it might not feel like it on some days when you're 4 hours into a podcast or something. It's like, what have we been doing here? Or your Wi-Fi, you want to smash the router off the wall and stuff like that. But honestly, it makes a massive difference. It really does. Like, it's good for the ladies as well. Like, I seen when we went up to Leeds last week, a couple of weeks ago, and you saw the effort that they were putting in. There was a load of media stuff around at the end of the game, and it was really nice to see. Like, listen, they smashed us, but I was happy at the end of the game because I seen the effort that was going in, and you could see it was coordinated, it was well rehearsed, it was professional, and it's exactly what these athletes, these female athletes deserve, man. Like, they really do deserve it. Like, I think for many years they've been overlooked, and wrongly so. And I think now we're really starting to turn a corner. I think especially the last 12, 18 months. We're really starting to turn a corner now, which it's good to see, and it's testament to a lot of the work that you guys are doing as well.
I think it's interesting because on that, I remember seeing that Leeds game. I was scrolling on Twitter, and I think the club had retweeted, and Leeds actually live streamed it on Twitter, which I thought was really interesting because that's something you don't tend to see. No. So, like you say, talking about growing the game, that's brilliant. Although it's Leeds, and we don't like Leeds, and we'll put that out there. Fair play to them on that, and like you say, it's good that they got the media as well, because I think back to sort of conversations I'd had with Tom, and even when he jumped on and he was saying, we were talking about a couple of the Kirsty Chambers free kicks, and I got 2 of them on video, and I think it was a pre-season goal, and I missed it, and he said, "Oh, you didn't get that one on video, did you?" Because it was one of them, it was like open play, so I didn't expect it. But it's like you say, it's almost a shame that there's maybe no highlights somewhere or some way of seeing it, because there's so many quality goals and players as well from not just FC but all over the league, and you can even say that for 3rd tier and 5th tier as well as the 4th. And like you say, it's just from our point of view, coming down, obviously chatting with yourselves, the players, and getting to know everybody, as well as it being sort of a hobby, and us doing, like you say, a little bit of videos now and then and things like that. It's really good, and it's also credit to everybody at FC, yourself and Tom, because I remember Jordan and Kirsty described it as a family. And that's one word you hear a lot. But I feel like, from our point of view, we feel part of that family because everybody's so welcoming. It's like it's a two-way thing. And this will lead us into our next topic on sponsorship shortly. But yeah, just is there anything final you want to say on that then, James? Just sort of like, what I think
like what you're creating there is it's a proper community of bringing people together from all different walks of life, and everyone's passionate about the same thing. And I think, like you say, there kind of platforms like yourselves it's got to be used to unify people and bring people together, especially throughout the last 18 months that we've had with COVID and stuff. It's been kind of crazy. The country's been so divided. Whether it be we came straight out of Brexit, everyone was divided, and we went straight into COVID, everyone was divided. We need to kind of like you say, that create these small communities, whether it be spurting up in Manchester and then growing out nationwide, and kind of bringing people together. That's got to be the main objective of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go on then to sponsorship, and this will obviously we're pre-recording this, but this will become apparent. Yeah, we are absolutely delighted as a podcast to be sponsoring one of your players, Jordan Bailey. Now, unfortunately, at the minute, Jordan's been injured, but when I just think back to that first time we saw her and it was just unbelievable. I think it was Clapton, and
It's scary.
It was. Well, she came on, and obviously we'd never seen her play. And you had Kirsty on one side, and Jordan came on the other. And I just turned around. So I think it was Gareth and Nat, and just said, "My days." I was like, "How is this possible? How can you have a left winger that's so good, and then bring on somebody on the right hand side? It's equally as good." I just remember them two fullbacks that were going backwards and backwards and backwards.
Scared,
and I was just
scared to
wow.
death, mate. You feel sorry for him, don't you? You literally like honestly, Jordan's crazy, man. Like lightning. Like I remember the first time I watched her, I was like, we played her as a number 9 for a long time, and every time the ball went past, like defenders were sitting on the edge of the 18-yard box because they were like, I'm not even gonna get into a race with her. Like different class, man. But exciting player to watch. Like you say, if you were playing a front three and Kirsty on one side, Jordan on another, it's something to fullbacks don't want nothing to do with that. Like whatever tier you're at.
No, I agree, but it was something, like I say, obviously from coming to, like I say, coming to games, and obviously I know I keep mentioning it. We had the pair of them on the podcast, and I think from our point of view, we were sort of grateful for everything, because not only had we chance to cover you, but we also got back from, like I say, the club and the staff, and obviously you'd all promote us on Twitter and things like that, and vice versa. And I think this was something we've been looking to do. So like I say, we're delighted as a channel. There's a few of us that club together. I'll shout out Natalie, Ben and John as well, who are also part of the AFU United team, obviously myself and Gareth. And it was just nice. Obviously we did the sort of the pictures and everything surrounding that on Sunday. And like I say, this will be out by the time people watch this back. But what does that sort of mean from your side then, James? Like, obviously, you get sponsorships of players, but maybe if you could touch a little bit of how that helps the club or the player, and what that will, hopefully go towards.
Yeah, definitely. I think first, cheers for all the help there with Jordan as well. It does make a big difference. And I think from my perspective, obviously, I mentioned before, I come from a business background. I'm constantly thinking about the club in terms of how viable is this? I know a lot of kind of coaches or managers, assistants, stuff like that. It doesn't really come into the forefront. They're just thinking about football. So for me, I'm always got one eye on, is this we got 600 quid for winning the FA Cup game on Sunday. I had that in my mind. I told the players, listen, this is 600 quid in the kitty. This is I said it in the team chat before we went out. And it wasn't because we're trying to make money or anything. It was we need to be doing everything we can to make sure the club are in a position where it doesn't become a kind of a black hole of they're just putting money into something and it's not kind of paying for itself. So going on to sponsorships, it puts us in a position where the club isn't, because FC have always been good where they won't kind of make the players. But I know teams still at our level are still paying to play. Players are still paying to play. I know over the road at Stockport, I think it's 300 quid. The players have to play to even play football, which is, I still think it's tough when we're at this level. You shouldn't be paid. You should be getting paid, let alone kind of still clubbing money in. So when the sponsorships and people like yourselves are coming on and helping players, it alleviates a little bit of pressure from the player. It alleviates some pressure from the club, and it starts for us. It starts helping us organise to how can we make this a viable thing, where kind of we're getting a bunch of fans down, and me and Tom are the same. We're looking at kind of attendance figures constantly, how many did we get down? Are we improving? Are we making the football exciting so people are going to keep coming back and watching? It's all, we've got to be thinking about this, not just as it's a business, because FC is not very much not like a business. It's everything the club has been built on is kind of anti-capitalism. It's complete opposite. But we've still got to make sure that with it being fan run, we're doing our part as well, and we're trying to bring on sponsors and we're trying to pay for ourselves. We don't want it to be kind of the club are just helping us out, they're helping us out be a team. We want to be kind of cement ourselves as listen, we're a big part of this club. The women's side of this is a big part of the club, and we pay our way and we pay for ourselves, and we're growing and we're developing, and like you say, the sponsorships is a massive help in that.
So just on kind of finances and growing attendances, how important is it, do you think, then, that this season you're playing inside the stadium and not on the AstroTurf or on the sort of fields around Broadhurst Park? Do you think that kind of being actually inside the stadium and getting people through the turnstiles is going to have a positive impact on attendances? And I mean, there's 115-ish there on Sunday. How important do you think that is?
I think it's huge. Like it's got a different feel of the game when we were playing on the 3G. It's just kind of like it feels very grassroots, and there's no disrespect against that. We've all come from humble beginnings and stuff like that. It feels a bit like that though. It feels teams when they come to you, they don't feel intimidated. Whereas the first thing when we had the game on Sunday, the opposite team are coming out and they're taking pictures in the stadium. They're going out and they're filming it and they're like, wow. And for us, that's a psychological thing straight away. If teams are coming to our home and they're going, wow, look at this, wow, look at the size of the pitch, and whoa, look at the fans, and like that straight away is a kind of a mental win for us. Like we're like, yes, this is our backyard. This is what we're about, and I think it's even better. And we're going back to attracting players as well. Players want to play in stadiums like that, and if week in week out you're playing in front of a couple hundred people, and you're playing in the brilliant facilities that we've got at Broadhurst Park, it makes a massive difference. Like that could be the difference between players going to, it might be going to Leeds or might be coming to Bradford or coming to FC United, is the facilities that we've got. And fair play to the club. Like I mentioned, kind of the operations director Paul, he's been pretty sound with everything. Like when we talked about kind of we're going up in the leagues, we need to be playing in the stadium. He has bent over backwards, to be fair, to make sure it's a reality, because it's not easy. The men might be playing twice a week some weeks, and then we're trying to get on there on a Sunday as well. He has been super fair with the way they've organised it, and that's testament to the club. Like they've been brilliant.
I think also as well, it's then a facility that, as the club grows and as the club gets promoted, you're there and you're settled. I think you look at Everton playing at Walton Hall Park, and I look at Broadhurst Park and Walton Hall Park, and I think they're pretty similar, if not sort of Broadhurst Park sort of slightly edging it a little bit. And you know, there's going to be clubs, I think Durham at the moment in the Championship looking good, and if they get promoted, then they're going to have to move homes, and that's quite disruptive again. Whereas, you know, you're in there now, and you know, there's nothing to stop you from sort of, you know, that facility is going to be up there with some of the best in the leagues that you're playing until you get right to the very top. So no, I think it's great, and I think, you know, when Matt, when you mentioned at the start of the season that the games are going to be in the stadium, it was just like, okay, you know, this feels big. And obviously some clubs as well now, more and more teams are starting to bring the women's team back in. We saw sort of Charlton last season bring the women's team back in-house. And how have the kind of club as a whole been? How much is FC like a one club mentality and everyone's in it together, from the men, the women, the youth teams as well?
Yeah, for me is I'll be really candid as well. When I first came in, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the one club vibe. I didn't like it. Like I was like, and my first chat with kind of Paul, the operations director, was literally like, it was frosty as anything. Like I was like, it got a little bit feisty. Like, I mean, we're pals now and stuff like that. But I don't mince my words with things. Like I didn't feel like we literally butted heads a bit on a few things, and I was just like, nah. Like this is. I think we need to bring in new players and I was just kind of like, what do you even know about the women's side? Like I literally just put it like it was brutal. Like it was like, and probably on my part, I hold my hands up and say I got a little bit too emotional about it. Like I said, it was an emotional thing for me. I was passionate about the team, and I think from that kind of point onwards, there's been a change. Like there has really been a change in the like I cannot fault anything at the club now. Like the club will literally do anything for us. Like it really does. Like Renault as well, the men's team manager. We train on the same nights as the men's now, and he's getting involved with our sessions and chatting to us and stuff like that. It's class now. It does feel like that. It's finally, since the years that I've been involved in the team, it does finally feel like we've rounded that corner and everyone's on the same page. I think that stems from the fans as well, though. The club's owned by the fans, and the fans are very much that they're well behind the women's side of things, and they've been pushing it for it to be the kind of one club spirit and one club attitude, and it really does feel like that now. And I think kind of giving Tom some props as well. Tom's a good communicator like that. He's a good organizer in terms of he understands football, he understands the structure of football clubs, and he's been working really hard with like kind of the chairman. And like you say, with Renault, the men's team manager, to bring everyone tighter together. And I think I don't think we would have been able to do it without Tom, because I'm like I said, I get a bit of a hot-headed with things like that, and I'm like clashing with people and wanting to throw things across boardrooms and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Tom's like a bit more calm and a bit more like kind of well thought out, and he's proper helped to bring everything together at the club, which was one of the issues we had for a few years. Like especially when I kind of worked under Cam, it did feel very much us and them, whereas it does not feel like that at all now. It feels very much we're all on the same page, singing from the same hymn sheet.
It's interesting, though, to hear that, actually, because thinking about you were saying, you're sort of a little bit hot-headed at times. Looking at the pair of you on the touchline, you'd think it'd be not necessarily Tom being hot-headed, but he's a little bit more out there. So it's quite interesting hearing that. But I think also that's nice in a way, because for me, I'm similar. I'm quite sort of outspoken myself. But I think having somebody like yourself, especially when, we talk about pre-Tom, and obviously people are so grateful that you kind of held everybody together. I think you need that, because at the end of the day, if you're sort of settling for, I don't know, let's use the word average, settling for average, you were there pushing for more and wanting more for the greater good of like everybody, which is great, because not every club has that. You read some stories like last year or two, or even recently, some horror stories like about how sides treat the women's team, and I think I only need to think of like issues like, for example, Liverpool quite recently. They were once winning league titles and playing Champions League, and now they're sat third or fourth in the Championship. And it can go that way if you don't, have people pushing for it. So it's nice to hear, like you say, that everything's together and you've got the backing of the men's side. And, I was speaking to Lee yesterday after the game, and he was sort of saying, eventually you want to look into travel for away games for fans. And it's things like that make it so much better, because you can grow it. And, fans sometimes, couple of people that we chat to, they say, oh, well, I won't drive to, let's say, Durham, for example. Whereas if the club say, well, actually, if we can get 10 of you, we'll put on a minibus, it's fantastic.
Yeah, mate, like I said, it's the little things that have happened over these little things about sorting like transport out, and there are all these little things that we're chipping away, but the club have been sound with every one of them. So it has made a big difference. It felt like we don't feel like we've had any resistance at all. And going back to what you said a second ago is, I didn't have anything to lose when I was being quite forceful with what I wanted for the women's side. I didn't know if I was even going to stay on, so I was just kind of like, I'll just go out swinging here and try my luck and try and get what I can, like, and see if I can go out and I got a couple extra things for the team out of it. Then great, like I would have done them a favor and stuff. But it's as things have kind of like unfolded, it's worked well. And like you say, going back to what you said about me and Tom there, like I think like we've kind of found like this nice balance between ourselves. Like we've both got good experiences in different areas, and we're both kind of a similar age and stuff like that. And it's for whatever reason, it's kind of clicked and it's worked well. Like I didn't know if it was going to work well and stuff like that, but it really has. Like we literally chat, like we're on the phone constantly with each other literally every day. I look at my phone and this is like, it's Tom, you and Tom chatting again. It's been decent, mate. It's been decent, and mate, the guy's so knowledgeable about football. Like it's unreal. Like he's forgot more than I've ever learned. So every day for me is learning when I'm working with him and seeing what he's doing on the training ground.
Yeah, I think that's great though, like you say, because it could easily go the other way. Somebody like you say, somebody new comes in, it could easily go south. But that was another thing, like I say, that obviously I keep going back to that podcast, but I'm gonna, because it's just good to hear, and I'm sure it is for you. That you were described as like brothers. You bounce off each other, and the players would love it. And from the feedback we've gotten from conversations with players, they absolutely love it, and they say, like I mentioned before, they use the word family, but they just everything. They just say, it's enjoyable to come to training. Sessions are fun. Like you say, you're constantly sort of learning. And I think that again can only add to everything that's going on at FC and improve it. I want to sort of briefly move on to something we talked about, James, just sort of off camera before we started. And it was kind of linking in a little bit to sponsorships and sort of one club looking after the other. And it was something I read with the Doncaster Bells captain. And she got a bad injury, and they were looking at basically, an operation for this injury. And the way it came about was she went to the NHS, and they were talking 2 years minimum waiting time. And she was sort of saying, she couldn't afford to wait that long. She wanted to play football, and it was something that she enjoyed. And in the end, she had to set up a Just Giving page. and it's 5,000 to go private. And you're kind of thinking, well, hang on a sec. If that men's team was a little bit more involved, shall we say, they could have easily covered that. And it just seemed a shame that, I mean, she's not the only one. I've seen other players have to crowdfund, but it got to the point where I think she raised 2,000, and then Gary Lineker stepped in and sort of I'll give it over 3,000. And it was nice that he did that, but sometimes it feels, certainly from like a fans on my point of view, that actually, why isn't the men's club doing more? 5,000 to the men's club is nothing. I suppose it's easy for us to sort of sit here on a podcast and say that, not knowing full circumstances, but it was disappointing from that respect, because she shouldn't have to do that. But I think what similar to what you've been saying at FC, through sponsorships, through memberships, of it being fan owned and things like that, I think it's great that you can do that, and obviously you give those players that full support and things like that. But sort of anything you can add to that, then obviously you talk about sort of costs and things and covering it. Obviously don't go into like figures and things, but sort of
just
around
that. No, mate, but there's loads of unpack there, to be fair. Like the fact of the matter is, we don't know the full circumstances, but you'd like to think that a club with an established men's side and with a decent fan base would be able to club together and sort out for especially the captain, like not just like some fringe player and someone who's kind of been at the club. Like this is someone who's kind of ingrained in should be ingrained in the club's culture. That you'd like to think that would be sorted for one. And it wouldn't be coming on now if on a podcast if I didn't slag the Tories off a little bit and ruining the NHS. Yeah, like I think like there's something else. Like we won't get into that on here, but maybe we'll have a pint one day and we'll have a chat about it. But the NHS getting absolutely smashed to pieces there, like the fact that she had to wait and go private, that's a killer. And then fair play to Gary Lineker for stepping in and kind of someone who's kind of been a spear point of football in the UK for kind of decades now. Always seems to be on the right side of things, like always seems to be doing kind of like saying and doing the right things. So fair play to him stepping in. But you would like to think, and that's not a criticism of the club, but I know for a fact if Kirsty Chambers went out of a big injury like that, he wouldn't even have to go on to Just Giving, mate. It would be every man and his dog around the club would be emptying the pockets to put money in the kitty to make it happen. So a little bit of a shame, but kind of does I hope she makes a kind of a full recovery and a quick recovery. But it does make you feel positive about kind of the family feel that we've got at FC, where it is very much that if the fans found out something like that happened, everyone would contribute and pull together, because that's what the spirit of the club's been built on. Not having to rely on kind of big, massive money coming into the club. It's been, like you say, like people like yourselves chipping in from a wider footballing community and understanding what we're trying to build at the club and really pushing it forward. Like it's kind of grassroots a little bit in terms of us all chipping in together and making things a reality. And it does feel like we're really, it's branching out now into a wider community, which is brilliant for everyone.
Yeah, spot on. I think I just got the article up here now because it was something the Guardian run. It was saying basically the insurance covered £30. I mean, it's just, I can't, it almost makes a mockery of the insurance that it was covered. And it's sort of talking about here, that players pay £150 for that insurance to be covered by £30 worth, which couldn't even buy me a pair of boots.
Yeah, you'd be better off keeping your 150 quid, wouldn't you, and getting yourself some food from M&S at the hospital and that. That's it.
But like you say, obviously, in terms of FC United, it's great. Like you say, there is that backing, but it's unfortunate, like it says here, that not everybody or not every club has that. But again, that's sort of a credit to yourselves for, like you say, really pushing that and going to the right people and having those conversations. Because at the end of the day as well, thinking about it, this players had to crowdfund as well. That also what people don't think about is these players work, they have full-time jobs. And obviously a 2.5 or 2 year delay on the NHS with, I think it was an ACL. It's not going to be great working with your ACL that's kippered, is it? When
especially if you do a physical job, like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't want to slag the club off too much, but there comes a point where sometimes clubs you've got to have some kind of responsibility for effectively their employees. Like that's why if we were looking at a relationship, I'm an employer. Like you've got a responsibility to your employees, regardless if some of them are volunteering or whatever. Like there's got to be some kind of guardianship there where you step in and go, all right, do we do the right thing? Yeah, we've got an opportunity to do the right thing. Is it going to affect our balance book in a massive way? I don't think it is. Like, let's be honest. Like, I don't think it's going to make a big difference. Sometimes you've got to do the right thing, haven't you? And we, like I say, I'm not going to comment too much because I don't know the inside outs of it. But from the outside looking in, it feels like we can learn from the situation. How can we, next time if this happens, if all other clubs are looking at this, if something else happens like this in the future, what's the plan? Like, how are we going to fix this? How are we going to make sure that these ladies are not being affected long term?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've come to the end of the show. So, James, I want to say thank you very much for joining us and sort of providing the insight. It's been an absolute pleasure. And obviously, thank you to yourself as well, Gareth. We're back tomorrow evening. Natalie's show is 7 p.m. So join us then. And like I say, for those watching us back, keep an eye on our social medias because there will be quite a bit of promotion on, obviously, our sponsorship of Jordan. So, yeah, keep an eye on that and we will see you all soon. Thank you.